call it the herd. There's about 10 of us that normally go. This was definitely a group project. No one agency could have done this. We needed the clerk on board. We needed to have the sheriff's department on board, the domestic violence provider, county government, because MIS had to be very, the IT services for the county had to be very involved. Some of the questions that you asked about things like funding and time frames, that would be a very different experience for you since the system's already developed now. Alamance County was the county that worked with AOC to develop the system, so it took us quite a bit longer and probably more money than it would take new communities coming on board. Right now, it's only us and Guilford County. Guilford came on board when their Family Justice Center opened in June. And that's one of the really cool things about the system. When we designed it with a group of software developers that were working with AOC to be able to work in a county our size where we're doing about 50 DVPOs a month to they're doing 50 a week. So their experience was similar to ours. It was really capacity taxing for the DV agency because we are already seeing all of the 50Bs, but instead of helping somebody fill out the paperwork real quick and explaining to them where to go and how to get to the clerk's office, we are now staying with them through the entire process and after in safety planning. And so it's, instead of taking an hour or two, it's taking 4 to 5 hours per client of an advocate's time, which is great though because our victims are staying in one place and they're leaving a whole lot safer than they used to leave. So that's been an adjustment for us, and it's been an adjustment for Guilford. I know Wake County has been talking about coming on board for 2 years now because of the size of their community and the fact that their DV agency only sees about half of the clients that are filing for orders. They're not real sure what that's going to look like for them. That's been the holdup. As far as expense and time frame, the only thing I can go by is Guilford. Our judges, there's 2 different stations set up, and it's done in chambers. There's one at the criminal courthouse and there's one at the civil courthouse. Our judges prefer to have 2 monitors so they can see the victim on one monitor and see the complaint on the other. I would recommend that. It's not real expensive to get a second cheap laptop so you can have the order up. You have to have scanners in the courtroom. What else, cost-wise? The system itself is web-based, so you have to have reliable internet access, and you have to have some type of secure video conferencing. Right now, we went from using Link initially, and it was approved by AOC, since the judges are interacting with witnesses over the video conference. They now have switched to Skype. Yeah, Skype Professional. I think as long as you get that approved by AOC, it doesn't matter. They just want to make sure it's a secure connection. When that ruling happened and they now are recording the hearings anyways, I don't know if that changed anything about what their concerns were, but I know that they were really wanting to make sure it was a secure connection and nobody's going to be able to hack in and see a hearing going on. So as far as time frame and history for us, Alamance was the first family justice center in the state. We opened in 2010. It was really heavy planning for the FJC. Started at least probably 10 years before, but really 5 years the work started before we opened. And part of the reason for the Family Justice Center being open in the beginning, the idea was to go to a secure, safe place where the victim could go and file and not have to leave the Family Justice Center and go to the clerk's office, and then down the street to go see the judge, and then back to the clerk's office, and then back across town to us to get their legal aid referral. The client was going to 5 different places in order to get their emergency order, and now they fill out the complaint, they stay with the advocate, they talk to the judge over the computer, we print out the order, and they leave with it in their hands. So there's not that added element of safety concerns for victims. I've got a copy of the questions that you gave. That's what I keep referring to. So obviously, we have advocates at the Family Justice Center that are family abuse services advocates. When the FJC opened, besides our residential services staff, everybody else is housed at the Family Justice Center for the agency. So all of our advocates are located at FJC. We have 5 who help with protective orders. 3 of them are Spanish speaking. So AOC's official ruling was that English is the official language of North Carolina. So the Spanish form, we weren't allowed to incorporate the Spanish forms into the system. They would only wanted the English speaking forms. The way we did it, just to back up, we get the client to write out their complaint, like, this is what happened to me and this is why I need an order. We translate that directly into the computer. We keep a copy of the handwritten complaint in our file in case anybody, an attorney were ever to challenge them to be able to do the representation or told somebody what to say.
And you also scan it into the file.
And the Spanish ones we scan in, and that becomes part of the official court record. That way, if the defense attorney wants to see what we translated, they can, or question the translation, they have that ability. So that's how we deal. There was a question about language access. For any other language, we would have to use a language line, and that's not the best use. I mean, that's not the best way to communicate with somebody, but really, with the only language besides English that we're able to help right now in person is Spanish. Okay, and this, when we log in, this is the e-filing system. When we log in, AOC has to authenticate any users. We have to get permission from them. We send in the information with the new users' information. They do a clearance and send us back the username and temporary password. So not anybody can get into the system. You wouldn't be able to set it in the clerk's office and say, here, fill this out yourself, because they wouldn't have a login to be able to log into AOC's system. There was some, and I don't know how that would ever, there's been some talk about trying to do more of like a kiosk update to where you could have a kiosk in the clerk's office where if the victim comes in without an advocate and you could just direct them to the kiosk. We're not there yet, and I don't know what that's going to look like or what time frames. Right now, you have to have somebody assist them that's got an AOC ID. And when the advocate logs in, where we are, when anybody walks through the door, they get a purple sheet, which has got all their information, the defendant's information, any children's information, description of the defendant, any other criminal, like a questionnaire. So we have all that information from the client that the advocate can begin filling out all the demographic information. So there's a screen where you fill in all the plaintiff's information. There's a screen where you fill in all the defendant's information. That includes car and description, work, address, those things. And then when you open up, after you submit, you click next. After you do the plaintiff information, you click next after the defendant, and then the complaint comes up, and it is set up exactly like a paper form. So your advocates who are used to filling out the paper complaints are going to be familiar with what this looks like, because it's the same. The only difference is, like when you check on, there is a court proceeding, a fill-in box pops up underneath wherever you checked yes. And so you write in what the criminal charge was, and then when you check for, there's a drop-down, a fillable box that's unlimited for the client's complaint. And as you scroll down the screen, it looks just like the regular complaint. What we do, and this is just because it feels like the best way that we can figure out how to do it, we print out a draft before we submit it. We get the client to look it over, make sure dates of birth, the birth are correct, the addresses are correct, all the information is correct. What we typed in is exactly what they meant to say. Once they've reviewed it, then we hit submit, and the clerk will receive an email letting her, he or she know that there's an order in their queue. So then they log into the system from their queue. And we actually, our assistant clerk just retired a few weeks ago. She had been the one that was the point person on this project with us, and we had lunch with her yesterday and didn't think about asking her to come because it would have been great to have it on here. By far, the partner that saved the most time and effort in this project was the clerk's office. She went from spending literally hours with people who were showing up in her office to, she logs in, gets the order in her queue. We call on a video phone, she swears the victim in over the video phone, then hits submit and it goes to the judge and she's done until the judge is done, and then she just has to enter the notice of hearing, and it literally takes 5 minutes. Where before they were making copies and mailing copies and making sure that things got to the sheriff's office. It's just, and sometimes helping clients fill out paperwork, because if they hadn't come to us, they'd show up with blank forms and she'd end up spending a good chunk of time. The other thing that they were doing in our community, the civil court clerks were preparing the full orders in prior, because we have, the full hearings are Mondays for us. Every Monday is DV day in civil, and so they were typing up draft permanent orders for each ex parte, and so hours and hours of time, and they're not doing that anymore because this automatically feeds everything into the full order. The judge can go in and uncheck anything that they want to, edit anything obviously, but it automatically generates from the complaint to the ex parte, and from the ex parte to the full hearing, to the full order. And that was for the convenience of the judges.
And also for the clerk side, I know you'll be interested, everything feeds into VCAP. So it's no longer doing it here and then also entering it here. It's all automated.
So it's interfaced. I mean, that's a plus.
That was one of the bonuses too.
Is it
Working with
a
AOC.
quick interface, though? Is it like immediate, or is it?
So it's real time.
Yeah, real time. That was one of the benefits to working with AOC's IT department on this. Initially, way back when we first started going down this road, AOC was working with us, but we were using a different IT developer. We had a grant from the Department of Public Safety. Some things happened and we ended up switching gears and working with AOC directly, and it just went, and that was one of the huge benefits, was that it automatically incorporates into VCAD. Do you have any other questions about the clerk's role in this?
No, just an observation, I forget my ignorance, but everybody knows what AOC is.
Oh, administrative office.
It's administrative office, of course. There's a support branch for the judicial branch, so we look to them to give us everything from legal counsel all the way down to pencils and paper and technology.
But for my benefit, can you explain what VCAP is, though?
I honestly don't know what it stands for because it's so old.
Yes.
But
it's a database.
It is the civil database as opposed to the criminal database.
Gotcha, okay.
Put it this way, when you go to enter something into VCAP, it's a DOS-based, like you're
Oh,
so
so great, wow. So
ancient.
that's VCAP?
Mhm.
Okay.
VCAP.
Yeah, the clerk's
And
office.
basically almost anything that's non-criminal in terms of database is going to go into VCAP. These are all civil matters, so that's how it would be entered as a
Right.
CBD, a civil district court case. There are other special proceedings in civil superior court that also are in VCAP, but it's the same basic idea, and it's right. I mean, it's the old green screen.
Wow.
It's a dinosaur.
And I hate to ask this, you might actually get to this at the end, but, because I know Q&A's at the end, right? So I'm just going to
Ask questions as we go, it was very important. Yeah.
So you took it upon yourselves to create this or come up with this idea, or everybody that was involved, separately as a county on your own? Like in other words, no other counties, nobody else is really thinking about this or doing this. And if this is so, I mean, this sounds like a great idea, it's fantastic. Why is not anybody else coming up with it?
We actually ended up getting a national award in last year in DC because of this, and we were up against like NASA and
Wow.
and we won. So
Well, congratulations.
yeah, it was a big deal. And this is, the community has been, Alamance County is really unique. The community works really well together. Like, it's not, there's no turf issues come up when I say they never do, but really everybody kind of tries to check their.
That's what it is. You had all the right entities all together on the same page.
You had to have everybody. You
Gotcha.
can't do it without
Yep, we
buy-in from the clerk's office and buy-in Department, and, because the sheriff logs all their service in here, so the judge is able, from the bench, to look and see that the order's been served, even if they don't have the notice of hearing back yet. And they can see that, the sheriff's department has made 6 attempts to serve and been unable. They continue it, the next, like, they might decide to go ahead and dismiss it at the next one as unservable. But yeah, there's.
Can I ask a quick question? So you pulled up the complaint, and then there's the other field, like the demographic information that pre-populates.
Yeah.
What? And you said that the clerk fills out like the notice of hearing. What about like the affidavit for minor children and the service member?
Initiated. When you go down and.
Okay.
I could pull it up, but.
That's okay.
When you're in the plan of information, when you add children, you add all the children information and that automatically generates the affidavit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks.
So, yeah.
That's cool.
Everything right now, even the continuances, for a while, like at the full hearings, we were having to scan and upload continuances, that's all automated now. The only thing,
Dismissals are not automated,
consent orders are automated now.
they're not.
Okay.
They
There's
still
no
have to be scanned in.
Renewals.
renewals, we submit the renewal paper and pen.
And they're done.
And they're
They're done
automated.
electronically.
I mean, the full order itself, when it's renewed, is electronic, but the motion.
The motion to redo is not automated. But
About
that's scanned in,
violations?
so that everything is in the file.
Okay.
What about like violations of it? Like, is there anything in the database system or anything?
And this, no, we don't keep
That's
track
all
of,
criminal.
that's all criminal, so that's.
Well, and keep in mind that the 50B violations would be a criminal matter.
Right, yeah.
Would be a criminal matter, because a violation is in fact an alleged crime,
Gotcha.
where this is civil. So you have a hard copy of the file? Everything's gone into the file? You're maintaining that? And it's in electronic format? So the judge doesn't, he or she doesn't need the file, the hard copy in front of them to be able to do this. They can pull it up on a computer and look
At
at
this
basically
point,
anything that's
they're
there.
still taking that flat file to court, but eventually we're having them go away. But
For now, they're still, the clerk.
Well,
the
trust
official.
me, I understand that.
So you all are doing this on Mondays, correct?
Ex partes we do 5 days a week.
Okay.
The full hearings are every Monday.
Okay.
The judges, we were really lucky. Judge Robertson is now a Superior Court judge, but at the time that we started the project, he was our chief district court judge. And the judges decided, instead of our signal, a victim would show up in court, wherever, whichever courtroom the clerk told them to go to, where there was a sitting judge, with their purple folder, and they'd have to flag down a bailiff, and the bailiff would come get their and bring it to the judge, and whenever there was a break and whatever proceeding was going on, he would have the victim come up. So a victim could sit there for 5 minutes before there was a break, or they could sit there for 2 hours. And it was also kind of disruptive for the judges to be constantly having people come in. So what we decided to do, they decided that they would like, is if we would hear the ex partes at 11 and at 3. So there's one morning session and there's one afternoon session every day. We started that even before the e-filing. We started that about a year prior. You would think that, you still get those clients that come in after the cutoff, and you have to safety plan and figure out how to keep them safe until they can get in front of a judge the next day. But it's actually helpful for the clients, because when they call ahead of time, we can say, okay, if you want to see the judge this morning, you need to be here by no later than 9:30. If you want to see the judge this afternoon, be here by no later than 1:30. They know around what time they're going to see the judge. Every once in a while, they're going to get delayed, but typically every day at 11 at 3 we have them. In Guilford County, they're only doing them once a day, and they're doing that at 2 o'clock every day.
At the Justice Center or Family Abuse Services building, are you able to assist more than one client at a time?
3 interview rooms. Actually, it was funny. The day we rolled out was a Monday, which was a court day. That's the other thing you need to know. AOC is very hands-on. I think we had 6 or 7 people there helping the day that we launched. They had somebody with us at the FJC. They had somebody sitting with the clerk, somebody sitting with the judge, as far as helping them through if there was any kinks. We didn't have any orders that morning, and so everybody was like, just like, hurry up and wait. The whole development team went to lunch together that afternoon, and we got back, and there as long as you have internet access, you can do this from anywhere.
Mhm.
The other thing I can do is say, well, she wouldn't call me, officer who doesn't know how to log in the system calls and say, I need to know if this order is valid. I can log in from my phone and see if the order is, you know, if it's been granted and if it's still, law enforcement can, and they all have been trained, but don't always do it. They can log in from their cars and see, and that way if they get to a scene and the victim doesn't have their order on them, they can log in. It's actually more secure than before, because before somebody could check and uncheck.
Right.
So now it's all very clear that, okay, this is what the judge intended. There's electronic signatures. That's why the consent orders still have to get scanned. We haven't figured out a way to get the defendant's signature on there, because the victim
A
swears.
little,
Yeah, that's what we've talked about doing. This is actually a /S/signature. It's not. It's not
right.
my signature.
Yeah. I know that the sheriff's office in this county expressed some kind of hesitancy or just nervousness about there being a typed judge's signature on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we have orders going back and forth between Orange County.
Right,
and
exactly.
There was
They
some,
were concerned that it wasn't a real order.
Right.
And they didn't see a real signature, so, yeah.
Yeah.
And that wasn't just Orange County, it was a lot of counties.
Yeah, lots of
especially
counties.
where
That's just a training issue, I guess.
the most interaction is with Guilford and Orange as far as like crossover clients, and both expressed some concerns about those. It's an AOC is the ruling body as far as what's legal and what's not legal.
Right.
AOC say this is a legal signature, it's a legal signature. You don't have to raise your hand.
I have to ask, how many do we average, this Orange County? DVPOs? Do we
Sure,
have
it's more than those.
I don't.
week or a month?
Amber would be a great person to ask.
I wanna say it's like 1,200 a year.
Yeah.
So that's like double what we did.
I could be totally wrong, but.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're probably
It may be more than that. I mean, it feels like 4 or 5 a week.
Yeah. And this, is it just 50Bs or does this system handle
Right now,
50Cs?
it's just
Okay.
only these. I started, the ball was already rolling. I've been with the agency for 5 years now. But when I started, I figured out really quickly, and I had run an agency in a different state where we had stalking order. It was something completely different. And I realized like half of my advocates' time was getting tied up with Facebook fights because of 50Cs. And we went, and the Family Justice Center director went and kept track for a 6-month period, and 101 50Cs were filed. One was filed because somebody was being stalked. 1 out of 101. So we met as all the leadership, the chiefs and chief district court judge, the clerk, everybody, the magistrate's office. The magistrate's office now assists people with the initial 50C filing, or like tells somebody, gives them instructions on how to fill out the application. If somebody shows up at the magistrate's office for a 50C and they've actually been stalked or been a victim of a sexual assault, then they refer them to us. And so we will definitely help stalking victims, sexual assault victims. We work in conjunction with our sexual assault center, but it's typically our advocates that help fill out the forms. We don't see a whole lot of those. Sexual assault victims tend to not want to tell their story in civil court, and I think there's a lot of times if there's a criminal case, the police would prefer that they not do the 50C, especially if there's a criminal charge and there should already be a no contact order in place. I think there's been some talk about automating 50C. I don't know. I don't think it's a priority right now. The judges will tell you that this didn't save a ton of time for them. What it did do is it kind of streamlined it. They're able to read the complaint before they log in and start asking the victim questions. Therefore, they can kind of see if they need any more information beforehand, talk to the victim, let them know if they're granting or not granting. All of our judges are good about explaining that they're still going to have a hearing and that they should find additional witnesses if they're not going to grant the ex parte. We had one of our 4 district court judges who was really, really kind of hesitant against this, and he even has to like admit that it's not meant as painful. He's not a real technologically savvy person, so having to rely on email notifications scared him. They all have court administrators that tend to do that kind of stuff for them and let them know when they have to log in.
And I think everybody was afraid too that it would be too relaxed and not court-like.
Mm-hmm.
But what we have found out is the victims get more, they'll tell the judge more because it's just them and the judge and usually an advocate in the room. And I used to sit in on them too, but they really open up and they're not, because they have that comfort that, okay, it's just me and the judge, and I'm not in a courtroom with 50 other people listening to what I'm saying, so it's been better.
I mean, we have one room that's just for hearings, it's dedicated, that's all that room is. It's got a desk with a laptop and a video phone and a telephone.
Turn a lamp on, so it's not,
Yeah.
it's nice.
Oh, the other thing I was gonna mention about the courtroom and the clerks, the courtroom clerks have logins as well, so if you have a judge that would prefer to let the courtroom clerk do everything, they can go ahead and say, they can do everything up to signing the order. They can say, go ahead and, do this, this, and that, they don't want to do.
You mean the usual?
Yeah, yeah. So that's built in for that reason, that the judges wanted it that way. I will tell you that none of our judges right now, I don't think are doing that. I think most of them are doing it themselves. You want to talk about the sheriff's department?
Yay. So at first, our guys were a little hesitant. They had to learn a new system and how to do password, and they didn't understand why they had to use their NC-aware username as their username for this, but it didn't interface with NC-aware. So I had to explain that hopefully one day it will interface and it will all be one system, and that was the reason for using NC-aware usernames. They got really excited when I told them the password never expires though. So for us, just being able to pull up that PDF and you can see the actual order and it hasn't been altered and you can read it was by far one of the best things. The other thing is they could go out there 10 times and attempt it and log those attempts. And that way the judge is going to be a little more lean towards more dismissing it than just keep continuing it. Because if you see you've tried to serve that thing 10 times and he's not there, doesn't live there, whatever, if you don't have a new address, the judge is probably going to say, let's just dismiss this. So the officers were a little more inclined to start logging those attempts. The other good thing is all of the agencies in Alamance County, all law enforcement have a view only, so they can pull it up. There's no more, well, we have to call the sheriff's office to get a copy of that. Nobody's running around anywhere. They can pull it up right from their cars. They can see the actual order. Once that service attempt or the actual service is logged, that signals a notification to the victim. So she knows that that order's been served. So an hour later when he's calling her, or shows up at her house, the officer knows without a shadow of a doubt, well, that order's been served and he has violated the order and I can take him to jail.
Yeah, and they can log in. This is what it looks like. You can search by name or you can search by case number, and it's searchable. That's what comes up when you pull up a case. The most recent activity is on top. So if the order's been dismissed, that'll be the thing on top. So the officers know this is the most current version of this order. It's been modified, that one's gonna be on top. When you click on this, a PDF pops up. So they log in, they search for their case. They can see, okay, this was served at 10:05, he called at 10:30, that's a violation, I can arrest. So it's useful on a lot of levels for the sheriff's department.
You said the victim was notified as soon as it's served. In what
Email.
form?
Email, text, whichever, or both. She can opt for both.
And
Okay.
she can opt for, like, a lot of times the victims will be with us, they want a text sent to their phone, they want one sent to their mom's as well, just in case. So they can send texts up to 5 different numbers. Most people opt for the text, yeah. an email.
And I also, where, the line where it says the sheriff shall deliver a copy to whatever school
Mm-hmm.
that the children attend, as soon as I get that order, which is immediately, I send it to the school electronically.
Mhm.
And the lead school social worker has provided me a list of the data managers, the principal, the social worker at the schools and the SRO. So I've set it up where I send it to everyone, so they all have a copy of that.
Very cool.
And this one, the advocate, this is the last thing the advocate does before they submit it to the clerk's office. The client's name goes in, it says email address, but you see there's an icon for cell phone runs right, so you can click on this cell, and that way it sends a text. So you can do both, like Sherry said, you can do an email and a phone, and there's 5 slots that you can notify.
And just out of curiosity, do they get notified anytime there's an action taken or only on the servers?
Only on service, only when it's in service.
So they're not getting bombarded?
Can I scroll back to like the ex parte, or you don't actually have to scroll back, but so if during the ex parte hearing, if it's denied, I know that victims have a right to have a hearing, but they can also decide to just take a voluntary
We routinely have
dismissal.
a full hearing anyways. We always have a full hearing.
Okay, so I guess if the victim decides they want to voluntarily dismiss, if that's something that differs county to county,
They have to do it in court in Alamance County.
in Alamance County, they have to go to court to take the voluntary dismissal.
So what they do those first, like if somebody wants to dismiss first thing Monday morning, that's the first cases they're gonna hear are dismissals.
Okay.
And with Alamance County, the judge just has them write out a brief statement and sign it,
Mm-hmm.
so that it's on record that they asked for that dismissal and what reason.
So regardless of what happens at the ex parte, it gets scheduled for a full hearing, regardless?
Regardless. And it's, yeah, always got
Because we were having a good number of people show up for the ex parte hearing,
Mm-hmm.
and if it wasn't granted, they just didn't bother to go back to the clerk when we were doing it the old way.
Mm-hmm.
So we have lots of flat files with nothing else in them, and then they were scheduled for court, and it kept getting continued when we didn't have the original paperwork back at the clerk's office. So nothing was ever served, and it was a mess. So by doing it this way, everything gets served,
Yeah,
everything.
it's been that way since I've been there, that they don't offer the voluntary dismissal at the ex parte. And there's a lot of cases where the ex parte is denied, but it's changed at the full hearing. Yeah, I mean, it happens a lot, because you don't have enough witnesses, or some judges are more hesitant than others to grant the ex partes when it's not real clear-cut violence or threats of violence, like in the harassment cases, things like that. This is the search screen. It doesn't matter if you're law enforcement, you log in, if you're an advocate, you log in, the sheriff's department, judge, this is how you search. You can search by last name, you can search by first name, case number, and court location. I haven't looked at these again since the first year. Our initial, when we reviewed it, it was about 18 months in. We were seeing about 13% of the clients who, we'd look at the first appearances for the assault against female and other obvious TV crimes, and from the first appearance, we would look at the intake, the FJC, and we were only seeing 13% of the victims when there was a criminal charge. That increased to 20% with the e-filing. Our referrals increased by like 139% as far as on-site, like our referrals to legal aid and our referrals to other services available in the building. Because before, the clients were running out the door to get to the clerk's office on time to get to see the judge, and now they have time to actually talk to other agencies. We have somebody from economic support from DSS on-site who can talk to somebody about work first and Medicaid and food stamps and things right there in the office. They don't have to go over to the main DSS building, which can be kind of intimidating for people. There was a decrease in dismissals. We did initially see a pretty big bump in numbers. There was a lot of media around the e-filing system, and some of that was just so awareness, okay, I know where to go now to get a protective order. And some of it because it was so much easier to get the ex parte. That has kind of leveled back off to our previous numbers now. Before, a full third of victims who came into FJC, met with an advocate, filled out the paperwork, a third of those people never showed up at the clerk's office. And now, so that number's completely gone. Everybody that files for the ex parte sees the judge. And the time study that we did, everybody kind of logged their time before and after. The biggest, again, time savings was definitely for the clerk. There was actually an increase for advocates' time. The judges stayed about the same, law enforcement stayed about the same. So the biggest benefit as far as just sheer time and effort was the clerk's office. As far as a community though, our victims are a lot safer when they leave. I mean, it was only like a year before, maybe not even, we launched. We had a victim come in, the guy had been in prison for murder with a handgun, was released. He had threatened her with a gun that morning, and I went to the clerk's office with her, and we had to walk from the clerk's office to the courthouse, and he actually pulled up while we were in talking to the judge. And so the judge had bailiffs walk us back to our cars, we did that. I'm like, okay, it's great, we have a bailiff walking with us, but it doesn't make us bulletproof at all. So that, just that experience of doing that with walking with a victim as they have that kind of fear, just that piece of it alone, because anybody that's worked with domestic violence knows the increase in danger when somebody's getting ready to leave and actually leaving, your risk goes way up. And because everybody knows if you're gonna file, you're gonna have to go to the clerk's office. And so we have Court Square where there's a circle around our clerk, like the traffic circle, and so they will forever see offenders just riding around that traffic circle again. So that has, our victims are getting better services, leaving safer. Even if they come in and talk to an advocate and decide not to do the order, they're still getting that safety planning. They're not having to feel like they're getting the runaround, because before you really are running to 5 different places in order to get the first day of parte. We had done a video, it was great, had Judge Robertson, the district attorney, and everybody on it, explaining the e-filing system, and we were looking for it when we got here, because it's on YouTube, and I can't remember what it's called to save my life. So that's really all I have, unless Sherry can think of something else. I'd be glad to answer any questions in addition to anyone might have. Overall, it's been, even Guilford, they've had some growing pains with their advocates, just feeling like they were getting swamped, because they were now like helping with each and every 50B that gets processed in the courthouse. Is going to the Family Justice Center as well, and you really have to have support. You're just chiefest of court judge, because Judge Robertson, I pretty much consider the Family Justice Center and e-filing his kind of legacy to our community, because without him, he's the one that got county commissioners to give us the building to do the FJC. He's the one that pushed AOC to get behind this. Really, he and our sheriff have been huge advocates for services for victims, and having those people, the people with that kind of power on your side is really important. I can't. And being able to, the whole development team, we had to spend thousands of hours traveling and doing some other things, and spend like 3 days straight in a room with a bunch of IT developers that literally every wall was whiteboard wall. And they wouldn't let us out even to eat, like it was terrible. But you have to have people that are willing, to work together and keep in mind what the point is, what's best for the victim and why you're doing this. And we were lucky to have a good team that worked on it together.
I'll just raise my hand, but first of all, this is amazing. I mean, I've done it once with a victim, and I just had that experience of running all over it. I was like, what in the world is going on? It was like
Why
a
is it this hard?
surreal, hazy experience. So, but where does the lawyer have to come in somewhere?
No, because you're filing per se, and we're not, the only thing we're doing is we're taking the information that the victim gave us and we're logging it into the system. we're taking the complaint that she wrote out and we're typing it into the system, so we're not giving them any legal advice. We typically refer our clients to legal aid, we're lucky, we've got a legal aid attorney that's in court with us every Monday, and it's able to take probably half of our
So
clients.
when they go to the hearing,
They
that's
have-
when they have a,
They
their
have an
legal
attorney
aid.
with them.
Okay, I can remember.
Yeah. Not everybody does, they can't take all the cases, but he usually screens in the ones that look like they really need, you know, that person needs some help, then he'll take. We can also do a good relationship with them, so if we know somebody who needs a lawyer, we can send, when we send the referral, we'll send an email along with it saying, Chris, can you please consider this one?
Plus, our victims typically have a navigator with them,
Oh, yeah, we've got,
so they're not allowed to report.
we have a volunteer program that was developed before even e-filing started. We train volunteers, community members to meet with the victim, sit with them during the hearing. They don't provide any legal support, it's just emotional support and kind of guidance, like the judge is gonna do this, they're gonna call your name, make sure you say here. You know, just kind of, so they're not sitting alone, because what we noticed when we go to court on Mondays, the defendants were coming with their entire family and search group, and they had the whole crowd with them, and the victims were sitting by themselves. And there's a number of reasons that happens, anybody that's worked with domestic violence knows
And,
that
yeah,
they're
they just wouldn't
isolated.
return to court, you know, and the order would get dismissed, because she was afraid to go to court, she was intimidated, so she didn't
Having
go through that
somebody-
again.
Right now, the way it works, most of the time, the victim, if they want to volunteer, the volunteer comes and meets them and sits with them during their electronic hearing, the ex parte hearing, and then they'll meet them at court the following Monday. So they know the person that they look like already, and they're able to have somebody. Not every community can have that. We realize, you know, I have 5 advocates, and we have, you know, some Mondays we'll have 15, 20, 25 cases on the docket. We can't have 25 advocates in there to sit with each victim, so we decided we were gonna start the volunteer program. And then.
They're called navigators?
The court navigators. They do civil and criminal, actually. We don't get as many referrals for the criminal side. We don't always work with the victims in the criminal cases because we don't know about them. If we do, or if one of our 50 clients, or our court ad clients has a criminal hearing, the volunteer goes to that with them as well. And that's actually even more intimidating than the civil court.
For the legal aid referral, do you just print off, like how do you
We
get
fill out
legal
state-
aid with the documents, the
We,
ex
fill out the
parte?
legal referral form, scan it, and then we scan it, we send a PDF from, the PDFs are already of the ex parte, so it gets sent with a referral.
Gotcha.
Because if when you, any of this, if you click on an order, it's a PDF that pops up.
Okay. Perfect.
I can actually.
And then if you have like IT issues, like if the system's down,
The county MIS, it depends, if it's a, e-filing issue, then we call AOC. There's
Okay.
an IT department, AOC.
Right.
If it's the county servers down, then it's the local IT.
okay.
Yeah, we can actually pull a case and show you, I don't think about that. But yeah, no, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, so in thinking about the increase in advocate staff time, since e-filing started, have you, increased the number of advocates that you have and the number of hours that they work?
We've added a full-time advocate.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you got
yeah.
one person through it.
We've gone some additional funding and we hired an extra advocate.
The mouse pad doesn't work, it has to be the other mouse.
Oh, it doesn't. Yeah, we did have to increase that. And I think Guilford County is going to have to as well. And they're looking at starting a navigator program too. I know that they're already using for it.
So how many counties altogether have this then?
2.
So Guilford and Alamance, you being the first.
Yes, and Wake County has been, as I said, trying to come on board, it's just because of the size, and then they had some change in leadership, the clerk became the DA, and, you know, some things happened, so I still think they'll probably be next.
They have a tentative start date
Do they?
of May 16th.
May 16th? Awesome.
So
We'll
I'll
see.
believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
But-
No, I'm glad, because that's been, that conversation has been going on for a long time.
I do have a question, do you think this is, I mean, I feel it'd be beneficial for every county to have this, the whole entire state, but I mean, is it more beneficial for, you know, very populated communities, obviously, or rural? I mean,
And honestly, when you've got a 5-county area with one judge, a traveling one judge covering all 5 counties,
Yeah.
this is amazing.
That'd be perfect, yeah.
Because otherwise, they're driving 4 hours to hunt down a judge.
Gotcha.
So I think it's good for both. The legislature passed legislation this session allowing for this to go statewide. So it's now okay for whatever community to go by. There's a law saying that they can do that. The problem was, in conjunction with that, there was a OVW grant written that would have funded a statewide expansion, and it got declined. So there's no
Oh, wow.
money available to do the
To do it.
statewide
Gotcha.
launch, but it's legally, and we have local rules, and I brought a copy of them. In order to make this official and legally binding, we had to do local rules, our chief district court judge, saying that this is a valid process and it's a valid order. We had one legal challenge early on, it didn't go anywhere, the judge ruled against the attorney, and that was the last we heard of it. I don't doubt that there will be more legal challenges, just because lawyers, it's their job. So.
I have a question. So you know, the judge can review requests for protection at 11 and 3. Is there flexibility with that? Does it just depend on your judges? Like if
It
they.
depends on your community and what, like I said, Guilford's doing it at 2 every day, and they only do the one. I know Wake County is already set up to just do one ex parte hearing. They do them at 2 o'clock as well.
Mhm.
So they'll probably continue doing that, just it'll be electronic instead of in person.
Okay, so a judge could decide, you know, there could be communication, like if it's 4 o'clock and there is a judge available to.
And that has happened a couple times.
do
where we call
a
over
hearing.
and say, hey, is there a judge available? We've got a really bad one. And, you know,
Okay.
We try not to abuse those
Yeah.
papers, but they are available, yeah.
Okay.
And not at the system set up, one of our judges, we had a snow day, and so she had to go in and continue all of the orders that were supposed to be heard that Monday, because the ex parte was expiring that day, and if she hadn't continued them, they would have expired.
Right.
Without the victim and defendant ever having an opportunity to go before a judge. So she went in and she did that from her house on Sunday, like, so, because you can log in with a VPN. Oh, did you get it? All right, so just pull up the certified copy.
Oh, I think you want it, oh, does it go down here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what, I think you just saved it too. It still disappeared. Any ideas?
Can you try minimum?
There you go.
There it is.
There you go.
So this is your, so
You showed it timestamp.
here's your electronic timestamp when it was clocked in electronically. See how neat and clean it is?
Mhm.
Easy to read.
That's the other thing, there was times that law enforcement would come in with an order and say, tell me what this
Yeah,
says.
can't read it, yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I can't.
Mhm.
So here are all the conditions. Yeah, easy to read.
You're not having to write the plaintiff's independent's names 207 times.
Here's the judge's signature. Here's his signature. That S/, that's the electronic signature. And this one, the judge actually gave custody to the plaintiff.
So you were saying basically there's like pre-populated fields, so if you type in, you know, a name and it'll automatically populate wherever it needs to, you don't have to do it over again, that's awesome.
Yeah, you enter the victim's name and information one time, and it's input one time, and it auto-populates.
So I can imagine not only is this clean and neat, it's much faster, it's so much easier for an advocate or somebody to be
Yeah,
dealing with.
the time to fill out the order is much faster. It's still, we're spending a lot of time with the victim apart from just entering the information into the system.
Then on the very last page, it'll actually put the summary of the complaint,
Hmm.
so it's all there.
And go back to the signature one more time. So you said
It's
slash,
S
slash,
Yeah,
so
it just
it's,
says, yeah,
okay. That's what's called a conformed signature.
yeah.
I assume you have drop downs and so forth for the judicial official because you don't know which judge may be presiding on any particular
When
day.
they
You
log
don't-
in, it's their signature.
It automatically puts it in, got it,
Mm.
makes perfect sense. And the date too, probably pre-populated.
And
The
you-
clerk has to manually go in and enter the hearing date on the notice of hearing, and the judge has to enter the hearing date.
And you said consent orders are still being done by hand because of the,
Consent orders are done in the system and printed off in the courtroom.
okay,
Plaintiff's signature is on there, that the defendant has to sign it in court, and then it gets scanned back in. And
gotcha.
so the courtroom clerks will
Yeah.
scan those in, and that'll still be on the top, so you know that that's the most current version of the order. But until we figure out
The signature piece.
that those are still have to be scanned in.
How does the language line work? If we, like if did they tell their story to the interpreter in their own language? And then,
We actually haven't tried to do an ex parte order with anything other than English or Spanish, because we haven't had anyone come in requesting that. I think AOC, I'm not sure if they would be allowed to use language line. Right now, and I don't know, I don't know what that would look like. For the ex parte, it doesn't have to be a certified interpreter, so the advocates basically interpret for the client during the ex parte hearing. We haven't had any languages other than that. We've had a couple of clients, but not looking for an ex parte order.
that would be something that the AOC needs to,
Well, it would have to be, the advocate would need to get all the information through the interpreter over the phone, and then you'd have to have the interpreter live in the hearing room on that phone. So the judge, I guess the judge would tell us what they wanted us to ask the interpreter.
but even to get the complaint down. Like that, the writing the.
Writing the complaint, yeah, we would have,
That's
know
what I
if there
was,
would be a way to have them write it and get it to the interpreter somehow, so they can interpret it for us.
So my understanding from our interpreter coordinator is that AOC funds for interpretation can't be used to transcribe anything.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't know what that would look like. I guess we would just have to take for granted that the interpreter was telling us what the victim wanted us to know.
it has to be written down somehow, right?
We do that for our protection, because I didn't want to get accused of unlicensed practice of law. They've already had the advocates accused of that, since they're definitely entering information into the order. So having the victim write out their statement and us keeping a copy of that, it's just in case anybody ever accused us of practicing law. That's the only reason that we keep a copy. If
But
somebody
they have to be
really-
able to actually write it, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Right.
so who writes it?
No, in that case, it would be the same if we had somebody that couldn't read and write.
Right, that's what,
Illiterate, then we type what they tell us
oh,
and take that risk, and that's what we would have to do. Just going to type in English, whatever the interpreter was telling us. Luckily, that hasn't come up, yeah.
Don't jinx them.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because, yeah, there's definitely that risk of getting threatened with unauthorized practice of law.
I think that would definitely be a concern for our community.
Oh, it's a huge concern, I think
For the Spanish-speaking cases that you are working with your advocates who are bilingual, are you producing like the written Spanish version and translating that into English?
No, we get the victim to give us all to write out the complaint in Spanish, and we translate it.
Right.
What we were told by AOC is that Spanish form is not an approved form by AOC.
Right, but are you maintaining like a Spanish version and a English version for your file?
Yes.
Gotcha,
We
okay.
keep a copy and we scan a copy of their handwritten
Okay.
complaint into the system. You can attach PDFs, you can attach, voice clips, like if somebody had a voicemail, if you wanted to attach a threatening voicemail, you can attach that as part
Oh,
of the
wow,
official
cool.
court record.
So with the illiterate folks, you transcribe what they.
We just we write down what they tell us. And that doesn't happen very often, but it does happen occasionally, or somebody might come in and their glasses have been broken and they can't see. That's a real thing that happens. So we just, case by case, kind of figure.
Can you record them,
We could.
telling their story?
That would probably be a safer
Hmm.
idea. And keep a copy of this.
So I'm even thinking of like the one family I worked with, it was just an interpreting process, but the kids spoke English. The mom, so he was interpreting, and the mom could read and write in Burmese. So between the two of them, we got, again, it wasn't a legal thing, got stuff done with them.
Well, I know the Council for Women funds prohibit us from using children as interpreters.
Yes, and we also.
Well, I was just saying, like an individual who speaks whatever.
We're, all DV programs that receive state funding are required to use a language line or some kind of service in order to be able to provide whatever service you offer regardless of language. But you're right, we're not supposed to use kids to interpret. Especially when it's a domestic violence case, because you're putting.
I was just, it wasn't a legal thing, I was
Yeah,
just saying
yeah.
like, in that case,
In order
like,
to
we have
manage.
an individual who spoke,
Right,
he couldn't read or write in the language,
gotcha,
which is gonna happen regardless of age.
right.
And then the other person couldn't understand English, but she could read and write in Burmese, so we took like, anyway.
It definitely has its challenges. Alright, so I feel like we kind of got away from these other issues, but like I said, we don't have as much of a diverse language base in elements as you guys do here, so it would be more of an issue.
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure that out, and I do think taping is probably, if you're gonna have to use an interpreter, to go ahead and tape the session with the client's permission and keep a copy of the tape session.
Is that an example of the scanned in
Yes.
Spanish form? And is that something that, is that form something that AOC provided?
No, that was Alamance County generated form.
Okay.
We were already using those
Okay.
before the e-filing, just to get the client to go ahead and write out, and that would attach to the complaint,
Mm-hmm.
so it was all in one spot. Because you can't fit a whole lot of information in that
Right.
four slot.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have other questions from anyone in the room? Okay, well, let me say bye, everyone.
Bye.